From the deconstruction of Pacific to the single-day rebuilding of Ottawa, from players going to Europe to players going to MLS, this has been a crazy month of transfers in the Canadian Premier League. Pretty much every team in the league was involved in some big moves in January, and so I'm going to recap the biggest ones in this video. If you're here for my take on a specific transfer, make sure to check the timestamps down below in the description. But to start things off, we're going to jump right into it with Pacific FC, looking at Hojabrpour and Taron Campbell. Early on in January, both Alessandro Hojabrpour and Taron Campbell both reportedly left Pacific and signed as free agents with Forge FC of Hamilton. And this came as a bit of a shock to a lot of people, as two key pieces of Pacific's 2021 championship winning team both jumped ship to go to finals rivals Forge. Hojabrpour coming off of a season where he won the CPL's Best U21 Player of the Year award, and Taron Campbell coming off a resurgence season after a disappointing 2020 where he scored 10 goals in the 2021 campaign. And right off the bat, disappointment for Pacific as they lose from their championship team their star striker and their up-and-coming star midfielder, two very important pieces to the team. And for Forge, they go bring in another young midfielder in Hojabrpour and add to an already stacked midfield defense in Forge, and add Taron Campbell to the already elite assortment of strikers that they have in the CPL. But that wasn't the end of the misery for Pacific, as Pa-Modou, the coach of the year in 2021 in the CPL, has reportedly left the team to go to North Texas Soccer Club in the new MLS Next Pro division that's starting up. Ka was a fantastic coach in his 2 seasons for Pacific, really turned the team around, took them from a team that in 2019 was not very good in the CPL to a playoff team in 2020 to a championship winning team in 2021. He was a crucial part of the turnaround, and well, it's sad that he's leaving Pacific. Going to MLS Next Pro is an opportunity for him to showcase himself in a league that gives him a very clear pathway into Major League Soccer and into the top tier of coaching in North America. So for Pa, this is a great move for him, but it's unfortunate for Pacific fans that they are losing such a fantastic coach. And just like that, Pacific is missing a crucial defensive midfielder, missing their star striker, and have lost their coach going into a season where this year they will be playing in the CONCACAF League. So it'll be really interesting to see how this Pacific team fares in the CONCACAF League, because for Forge, their championship teams, it was pretty much a very similar team as to what won the championship in terms of their star players and their strengths that went into the CONCACAF League. But now Pacific has a team that does not look anywhere near as strong as the team that they had when they won the CPL, and now they have to play in the CONCACAF League this coming summer. So they still have a lot of time until the CONCACAF League starts, but it's going to be interesting to see who they bring in, if they do bring anyone in really, to replace these guys. The big European move of this CPL offseason so far has been Easton Ongaro going to UTA Arad in the Romanian First Division. The first 3 seasons in the CPL for FC Edmonton have been a disappointment all around, but throughout all 3 of them, they had one bright, shining star, and that was Easton Ongaro. Through 3 seasons, despite how miserable Edmonton was in all aspects of the field, he was consistently near the top of the league in scoring in all 3 years, and after 3 seasons is the cumulative all-time leading goal scorer in the Canadian Premier League with 25 goals. This Ongaro move, though, is the perfect exemplar of what the CPL is for. It's a place for these young Canadian guys who probably wouldn't have gotten a chance to crack professional minutes in an MLS lineup, get a chance to get some professional showcase, and then get a move to Europe. Yes, it's the Romanian League. Yes, it's a mid-table team in the Romanian League, but it is a step to Europe and a pathway for him to be able to go into that continent and try to spark a move to bigger and better places. And this is just one step of what is hopefully many steps up in the career for young Easton Ongaro. Next up, following Pa-Modou to MLS Next Pro, Mo Farsi. Mo Farsi, the cavalry wingback who burst onto the scene in the 2020 CPL Island Games and then followed it up with a fantastic 2021, has moved to the Columbus Crew 2. And he will be a part of the Crew 2 in the first ever season of MLS Next Next Pro. Disappointing that Cavalry is not able to hang on to a very electrifying player and a guy who has great capabilities moving the ball up the field. But for Mo Farsi, again, this is a move that works out for him, as now he gets into an MLS team system, and he really has an option going to MLS Next Pro to really prove his worth with the crew too, and try to get a spot up with the full-time crew. And I'm sure that's what his goals is to end up in MLS because of this move. The founding of MLS Next Pro is going to make things really interesting in the next coming years for the CPL, because, like as I was just saying, for guys like Easton Ongaro, who wouldn't have gotten the chance really in MLS teams, MLS Next Pro is also another league made for guys like Mo Farsi, like Easton Ongaro. So it's going to be really interesting to see these early 19, 20, 21-year-old Canadian players, if they're going to end up playing in the CPL or MLS Next Pro, and which the more elite players in that age group are going to end up going into with more regularity. Keeping with the Mo's, the next transfer is one that hurts for us Forge fans. Mo Babouli signs in the Qatari second division with Muaither SC. After 2 seasons in the CPL, and pretty much a whole year of speculation of him coming to the CPL before then, Mo Babouli is moving back to the Middle East, going to Qatar. Mo Babouli came to the CPL with a lot of question marks over whether or not he could still perform in a fully professional league, having been previously playing indoor soccer with the Mississauga Metro Stars, and then playing in the Canadian Soccer League of all leagues. And it took him a little bit to get going, but once he did get going, Mo Babouli was a star for Forge and was a big part of the CONCACAF League runs, and especially this year, he was a massive part of getting Forge to the semifinals of the 2021 CONCACAF League and getting that spot in the 2022 Champions League. So for Mo Babouli, this is Forge losing their #1 striker, of course, replaced pretty much immediately with Campbell. But Babouli was more than just a straight-out striker. He could drop back into the midfield. He was very talented with the ball on his feet. He's going to be very well missed in Hamilton, and best of luck to him in Qatar as he tries his hand at the Middle East once again. The next move I have is probably the biggest player coming into the CPL move of this month. Aiden Daniels, the Canadian U23 Olympic camp player, the former TFC Academy player, moving from OKC Energy in the USL Championship to the Halifax Wanderers. Aiden Daniels is a very exciting young player. At the Canadian U23 Olympic camp last March, I thought that he was the second best offensive talent that Canada had beside Tajon Buchanan. He spent the last 3 years being a regular contributor in the USL Championship, so we know that he is more than capable of playing at the CPL level, and probably even a little bit above the CPL level. And he goes to a Halifax team that now, with the addition of Aiden Daniels, is looking like they're going to have a hell of an offense. With Jean Morelli and Akeem Garcia up top, the last 2 Golden Boot winners, add in Aiden Daniels, the creative piece feeding them, that is a very, very dangerous offense in the CPL. And Aiden Daniels, it would not surprise me if, with Morelli especially, he becomes a playmaking force and goal-scoring force in the CPL. Honestly, I feel like he has a potential on that Halifax team, really. That gives Halifax the attacking midfield mind that they kind of lacked this past season, and I think with Aiden Daniels in Halifax, this is a big piece for them to push for a playoff spot next season. Some small little moves I want to get into before I get into my last big move, which is Ottawa. There is the TFC signing Lucas McNaughton. Again, that's another major piece leaving Pacific on top of Ka and Campbell and Hojabrpour. But I've already talked about that one. There's a whole separate video up on my channel about it. Go check that out if you're interested specifically in Lucas McNaughton and Luke Singh swapping places. In addition, not full transfers yet, but in MLS training camps, Pacific's Caden Chun is on trial with Toronto FC, and Forge's Kwame Awua is on trial with the Vancouver Whitecaps. So interesting to see if anything comes out of those. However, CPL players have been on trial with MLS teams before with no moves coming out of it. See Amer Didic going and training with the Vancouver Whitecaps at the beginning of the 2020 season. So maybe something might come out of that, maybe not. It'll be interesting to see if either of those guys end up on an MLS team, because they are 2 of the most solid fullback defenders in Major League Soccer, and Caden Chun and Kwame Awua both really probably could do a job in Major League Soccer. So it's going to be interesting to see if either TFC or the Whitecaps do end up picking them up. But as of right now, nothing is set in stone, and as far as we know, they might just be getting a small look at from those two teams. And finally, the last move I wanted to talk about, or moves, is Atletico Ottawa making several major signings all on one day. On the same day, Ottawa had announced they signed Kevin Ailman, Ollie Bassett, Maxime Tissot, and Nathan Ingham. A full rotational turnaround for Ottawa, and this is essentially bringing in a core 4 group of players. Ollie Bassett is a solid striker, Kevin Ailman solid in the midfield, Maxime Tissot great leadership presence as he was for Forge, and the utility, able to play both defensively and in the midfield. He's a very useful piece, and already knows Ottawa, having played with the Fury previously. And Nathan Ingham, the former York 9 goalkeeper, 3rd in the CPL since the inception of the league in clean sheets. So they go and get one of the better starting keepers in the Canadian Premier League to bring him on to their squad. And Ottawa is a team that has some nice pieces that they already have, like Malcolm Shaw, like Chris Manella. So to just bring these guys in, the CPL experience and talent, guys who have performed well in the CPL, that is a major uptick to this Ottawa team, and I feel like they're going to be quite a bit better than they were last season. So there you have it. Those are the biggest moves that have happened so far in the Canadian Premier League off-season. Leading up to the 2022 season, a lot more moves are going to happen. Forge needs to settle in a few more guys because they're playing in the Champions League in just a few weeks, even though the CPL doesn't start for another couple months. So going to be interesting. A lot of fun things happening with this league, and this 2022 season, when it eventually does start, should be fantastic. That is it for this video. As always, if you'd like to hit like, if you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.